It is so nice to have you all tuning in today. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. My name is Sydney Gary. I am the Conference and Communications Coordinator for the Natural Start Alliance, and I'm feeling so lucky today to be joined by three wonderful staff members of the Evanston Public Library in Evanston, Illinois. And they'll be talking about this incredible, wonderful Children's Literature Award, the Blueberry Award. And I feel like I have to do the fingers because that's how it makes me feel. All right, let's dig in. So Natural Start looks forward to this annual opportunity to co-host this webinar announcing the Blueberry Award winners. We recognize the power of literature in the field of nature-based early childhood education, and that children's storytelling is a universally accessible resource and opportunity to celebrate nature connection and represent culturally diverse nature relations and inspire meaningful conversations and actions towards environmental appreciation and stewardship among our early learners. Now, that last point about inspiring meaningful actions towards nature appreciation and stewardship is, in my humble opinion, so important at this moment in time that we're in, where we're facing really big and often overwhelming societal changes. So, finding ways to root our children in the special and unique aspects of our natural world is one sure way to steward the generations to follow in the right direction of compassion and care for the environment, and ultimately for each other. So the Blueberry Award began in 2021, and we've been ecstatic to partner with them in this initiative ever since. So the 2024 winner, honors, and changemakers were announced early last month, and we have three wonderful guests, Martha, Betsy, and Bridget, who will be walking you through the latest and greatest books about nature. And I will let them introduce themselves. They have lots to share because they're all so wonderful. But I just want to say that we are so grateful to have them here with us to share more about the awards, the origins of the award, and the purpose, and then dive into this past year's winners. All right, I think that is all. I will pass it off to the Evanston Library crew as soon as I can find the screen to stop sharing. Oh, there we go. All right, they take it away, y'all.
Wonderful, wonderful. We look forward all year long to this webinar. We have you in mind all the time while we're deciding on the very best books and fighting it out in our 4 meetings. So let's commence. Betsy, do you want to start sharing?
I do want to start sharing.
Yay.
Thing I want to do and see if I actually can do it. There we go.
So of course, we want to say we have some of the coolest books for you this year. We cannot wait to share them. So welcome to a webinar about the Blueberry Award. You can turn the slide, Betsy. The Blueberry Award, it was founded in 2021 with the idea of providing you with a curated list of what we feel are some of the best books published every year. And there is an explosion of some really great program writing and illustrating and photography and all the other things that kids need in a really great book. On the other hand, we have also found that there are plenty of nature and climate books that are not just ineffective, but also detrimental. And we'll talk more about that. So we want to give you some of our criteria before we get started so that you'll have a chance to be able to select your own books in a way that the Blueberry Committee does, so you can feel confident that you're sharing the best with kids. Okay, next slide. And I'm going to turn this over to Betsy and Bridget. My name is Martha Meyer. I am the founder of the Blueberry Award, though I could not have founded it without the folks on our team. So it would not have moved forward at all without that. But I'll let them introduce themselves, but I am a library assistant at the Evanston Public Library. I spent years and years compiling a best nature books of the year list that helped preschool teachers and other folks who work with young children to select a wide variety of new books. But it was only in 2021 that we turned our sights to making this an award where we were picking out the very best and limiting ourselves to a certain number. All right, I will turn it over to Betsy and Bridget.
Standards. That's an idea, but we have them. Basically, if you're going to make an award, it's good to have some standards. You can certainly just go out and just pick any old book you like that happens to strike your fancy, but we wanted to do something a little more rigorous than that. So basically, we've come up with, we're librarians. We believe in literature. We believe in quality children's books on every level, the writing, the art, the design. But also we want to be on topic. So we want books that, talk about nature, where nature intersects in different ways in kids' daily lives. And we wanted to sort of talk about climate peril in a child-appropriate way, developmentally appropriate, one might say, but also tell the truth. Very difficult balance to hit. And of course, we want a wide and diverse range of books to do as well. Bridget.
And real science. This is a one that, when there's an animal of the year, that there's sloths everywhere, or one year, it's giraffes, whatever the animal is. That actually has to be, for us, it's real science as opposed to just, if we look at a book and we go, oh, that's nice, but you could insert any animal there, and you can't have the elephant living in a tree, and you can't have them living in a climate they couldn't be living. We don't need to confuse the kids or give them misinformation. And then we love, this is also where our Changemaker comes in, is the insights kids to actions that would make a real difference. So Martha, being wonderful, has been very thoughtful, and the group kind of shifted, like shaping and looking to make sure that it's kind of going back to the climate peril in appropriate ways of kids just don't read these books and feel like, well, there's nothing I can do, it's all terrible. Ones that are giving them ideas for things that they actually can do. So, oh, and then bonus, because Evanston, we have a climate action resilience plan, say that 10 times fast. We love it when our books go along with that. And thankfully, we have our wonderful colleague, Kara Pratt, from the city of Evanston. She helps us with that, and she helps to select that. So I think next slide.
Hey. All right. Just to add to what Bridget said, in terms of we do have a biologist who works with us. She worked at the Peoria Zoo, which is a ways away from Chicago, but we're still in touch with her. And she reads all the books from the perspective of a wildlife biologist, and is able to make all kinds of improvements and corrections, and eliminate all kinds of books that we absolutely adore because they have the wrong information. And we think this is really important. It's not just a librarians award. It is also an award for sustainability coordinators that are on our committee. It's an award for the biologist on our committee. We've had in the past marine science biologists, and we've also had neuroscience folks. So we are cultivating the scientists among on our committee so that we can offer you real science in terms of how we're selecting the books. So we have another kind of set of anxiety, a set of criteria that we use, and this is a little trickier to explain. It's called the climate anxiety criteria. It actually should probably say anti-climate anxiety criteria. We did some research with this woman who's listed down below, Louise Chawla. She's from University of Boulder, and she's also the Scientific Advisory Council of the Children in Nature Network, who believe in making helping kids be nature smart. So we looked at her research and then came up with these criteria, and feel free to use them in your analysis of books that you want to share with your kids. Love of nature first, climate action second. You only save what you love. And this is particularly true about the age range under 8, who I feel should not really be given information about I mean, there are exceptions, but mostly should not be given information about the total effect of global climate change, but should be able to cope with information like the birds need our help, let's plant native seeds. but we don't need to necessarily share at that young age, under 8, that we're having a bird apocalypse going on right now because the insects are not finding the food that they need in terms of native plants. But there's a way to do this in a wise way. We always make sure that the books emphasize group action, and group includes parents and also nature smart folks like you helping kids. No one is supposed to do this alone. Even adults are not supposed to do this alone. It's a group action. And in fact, one of the best ways of looking at it is it's the coolest group project ever in the history of the world. We also want to make sure that when an issue is brought up in a book, that the suggestions that are included at the back for what to do mitigate the actual problem that was in the text. For a while there, all children's books that talked about climate said, okay, stop using straws, and that is going to solve the whole climate crisis. And we feel that's misplaced. It needs to mitigate the problem that is being shared in the text. And then imply that, or state clearly that the adults are engaged, that they're already investigating. It is never, ever appropriate to say it's all up to you, or you young people, you have to do it by yourselves. And of course, follow child development guidelines. I was talking about this before, about what kind of information kids can handle at each age. So it's helpful to have a little checklist to go through. So when we're, when we're reading, this really helps us, clarify whether this is a book that might lead children into climate anxiety. And one of the reasons we want to avoid that is not just we don't want them to hurt, because we all are hurting with what's currently going on. We're all in a certain kind of eco-grief. But we don't want them to freeze, is what we don't want. We don't want them to become anxious and unable to act. Anxiety is the enemy of action. And action is a thing that reduces anxiety and also will change how our world is responding to climate mitigation. So that's the reason why we have the criteria set up the way we do, and we're so grateful to you. I think that that if you go out and begin applying this kind of thinking, you probably already do it naturally. I just want to assure you that the librarians are in on this now. They get it. Or at least they're trying to get it. And so if we all do that, then I think slowly over time, editors and publishers will begin to make books that really serve the children's needs that you're looking to serve. All right, next slide.
I love the term, the librarians are in on this now. That is great. All right, let's start off with our winner. The winner of the Blueberry for 2024 is The Great Lakes by Barb Rosenstock. This is a fantastic book. And as Barb told us at our Blueberry ceremony, the last time someone did an entire book on the Great Lakes for kids that wasn't just like a textbook was like the 50s. So that's fun. This book is fantastic. I can't even begin to tell you. It has all sorts of very cool, like, images, but it's talking about things that I've never seen a book do. For example, you can see, and I wasn't able to get on the slide, but you can see the Great Lakes in profile, and you can see how deep each one of the Great Lakes is. That's super cool. Brings in everything from Niagara Falls. How much fresh water is in the world? If all the water in the world was like little bottles, 2 of them would be frozen of fresh water, and then 1 would be free. But it doesn't do this in sort of an anxious way. It's telling us about like the history. It credits the people who lived there first. It does all sorts of wonderful things. It is a really beautiful book on top of just great writing. Oops. Okay. And yeah, and of course we're all from the Chicago area, so we love the Great Lakes, in and of themselves, but it doesn't just cover Lake Michigan, the best lake. It covers all the other lakes as well. And that was me saying it's the best lake. I'm editorializing at this point. So that's our winner.
Ooh, but then, hello, by the way, I realized I didn't introduce myself. I'm Bridget Petritis. Martha heard about my impressive National Park magnet collection and was like, well, no, I work with adults typically on the 2nd floor, but I also love getting to read kids' books about nature. Speaking of, this is the book, The Pelican Can, that the kids chose. This is the one that was like the hands down winner. So you might recognize Tony Yulee from Slowly, Slowly, another book that we've looked at before of liking and relating kids to nature. Thank You Bees or Night Owl. Okay, so Pelican Can, love it. Fun fact about the Pelican Can. So when Miss Hilda, one of our wonderful esteemed colleagues on the Blueberry, was reading it to her kids, she had one style, I had another. But I wanted to read for you all. Tony Yulee, it's great when we announce these awards because then we get to hear back from the authors and illustrators. And so Tony Yulee wrote back, but this was for the students. So it said, Dear students, thank you for choosing The Pelican Can as your favorite Blueberry book. This makes me so happy, and I wish I could be there to thank you all of you in person, and read my book to you. I hope when you read my book, you feel like you get to cheer for the mighty pelican and all of the amazing things the pelican can do. Remember that everyone can't do something, but everyone can do something else. I know you can all do fun things. Have a wonderful summer, and thank you again for voting for the Pelican Can. Love, Tony Yulee. So I feel like in her letter, she beautifully summed up kind of how we feel about the blueberry and empowering kids. So as I said, Miss Hilda read it in one style. I think she had a more like the Pelican Can. I saw this, and in my head, I immediately started thinking of the Candyman can, but I read it as like The Simpsons, where the garbage man can. So, but you can read it however you want. It's a great, simple book for kids. That's one of the things as well with the Blueberry. We try to look at ones that are fun for people to read, that will be fun for kids. Yes. One thing that I realized when looking at this book for preparing for today, the book goes from sunrise to sunset, which I just think is so clever and beautiful and a great way to tell the story. There it is, our beautiful sunrise. This is, oh no, anyway, gorgeous book, very simple. The story of the pelicans day as they get older. And then hold on, I just love all these gorgeous photos. And then this one, unfortunately, they didn't have. But you can just imagine reading this to a kid, and once it becomes a nighttime favorite, them going splash. So I'm sure Miss Hilda had help from the kids reading this one. But just nice, simple. We always love when it's going to be an easier one for story time reading. And then it's just gorgeous. So nice and simple. You can tell why the kids loved it because you could see them being empowering and wanting to read it even to each other. So that was our vote winner from the kids. They have spoken.
No, you're muted. You're muted, Martha.
Okay, this is Martha. I don't think you can necessarily see me, but I'm not sure why. But in any case, I did, there we go. I did want you to know that anyone now can participate in the Blueberry Votes program. By August, we will have 5 books picked out of the 2025 list that we think are pretty darn good for about the age range of kindergarten and first grade. And then anyone can read those 5 books to kids and have them vote. And the votes, if you supply them back to me, there's information on the website, which we'll supply at the back. You could supply them back to me, and we will then take into account what your kids voted for, if you would like. So there's more information about that online, the Blueberry Votes program. Okay, so then there's a third award that we give. It's called the Blueberry Changemaker Award winner. Changemakers are books that are particularly helpful for kids and families and camps and organizations as to what they can do to do a better job for the climate. And this was selected by the school district's let me spit this out, sustainability coordinator, as well as our City of Evanston sustainability manager, as the best book of the year that they found to help families begin to understand and change their ways to be supportive of the earth. So this is an upbeat explanation of the circular economy, and that even a 5-year-old can understand. I have to tell you, I did not know what the circular economy was until about 3 or 4 years ago, and I don't think I could have explained it at all. And somehow Andrea Curtis, who's this brilliant Canadian writer, has figured out that the way you explain it is you talk about the difference between a circle and a line. And almost everyone in that, even a preschooler can tell the difference between a circle and a line. Using nature as our model, then we look at how humans have been in the past managing their stuff. And it's a line. You extract it, you create it, you use it, and then you throw it away. And this invites readers' participation and innovation. It's very exciting and upbeat. The illustrations are so wonderful. It's from a woman in the Netherlands who goes by the strange name of Roosboos. But she is very talented and fun, and makes this just a great, this really exemplifies what I was saying before, where mitigating climate change is the single biggest and most thrilling group project that we have going right now, and inviting all the readers to participate in whatever way works for them. This is a little bit older than the age that most of you are working with, but I just think this is such a marvelous book, and I'm sure that there's ways that you could adapt it, or adapt the ideas to support you. So that is our Blueberry Changemaker Award winner, meaning the best book of the year to help us make change. Oh, and the inside is so beautiful. Here, this is about, there's the difference there between the circle of the earth, and then this is the end of the line here with all the plastic falling into the ocean and the sea creatures wisely moving away from it. This is so fun, and you'll just enjoy this so much. All right, I'll turn it over to Betsy.
Okay. A terrible place for a nest. Oh, we've all been there. Oh, and I should say, I'm Betsy Bird. I didn't actually introduce myself before. Hi, I'm Betsy Bird. I do stuff with kids' books all over the place. We've all been there. We've all seen a bird who has put a nest in a stupid place. Stupid to us humans. To the bird, it seemed like a perfectly legitimate place to put a nest. This is a lovely story because in a lot of ways, it shows sort of the connection between a kid who has had to move, thinks that they now are in a terrible place, then finds that this bird has put their nest, they're mourning doves. You know mourning doves. And they put it right where the UPS driver has hit and knocked over the nest, and everything is awful. But things can be rebuilt. Birds can make subsequent nests, and babies can be taken care of. So in the course of this, this kid becomes a bird advocate and starts making signs saying, hey, please note the bird who has put a terrible place for its nest right here on our gate. Please do not knock over the bird. Please note all these little signs that we have put out. And so it sort of shows a kid's not just love of nature, but a connection between nature and their daily life, and because of that connection makes a friend and begins to settle in and begins to realize that maybe this is not the worst place in the entire world where they have actually ended up. It's a lovely story, and it's just a really good everyday life moving. It's about moving. So kids can really relate to it, but also just brings in that love of nature in a really subtle and clever way, which I love that in books so much.
Ooh, it's my turn. All right. So, Climbing the Volcano, A Journey in Haiku. This is by Curtis Manley, who you might know from Sean Loves Sharks, because I love Curtis Manley books. So these are great. Pictures, Jennifer K. Mann, I have to say. So, yep, if you leave this one, this is perfect. So she did this very cool thing with the prints. It's called holograph printmaking. So she glued pumice and other gravelly things to cardboard and spread ink on them. And so that's where you get like this cool textured effect. But you're like, haiku, kids, how am I going to tell about haiku? And volcanoes, kids, not everyone has a volcano to climb. So this is in Oregon. And you're right, not everyone is going to have a volcano to climb. And haiku seems an interesting thing to try and present, although then you can clap your hands, count out the syllables. So that's a great way. But I think kind of what this book encapsulates, and if you want to go to the next slide, just to see the joy with this book, I love this. Yes, it's kind of, yes, they are climbing this volcano in Oregon, but what it is, it's this day out in nature with your family. So this could be this could just be a local hill. This could be a forest, but this is the volcano. And this book just so much joy, but also I didn't have a picture, so you guys just have to see this picture, but where he's swatting away the mosquitoes. So I love that it's not just the pretty parts about nature and getting to see this gorgeous landscape on the left, but it's also you're going to have to swat away mosquitoes. So it's how to stay warm in the forest shade, swat mosquitoes. You forget how fun it is to just read haiku out loud. Okay, so then one of the things that we always talk about here is back matter. Back matter. So back matter is like the end where they're like author's notes, or this one is more about climbing a mountain. And it gives things that you should bring: navigation, sun protection, water. These are all important things to bring for your climbing. But I also love, this is another, back matter that teaches things. Like I learned that the plural and singular of haiku is haiku. So we all learned something fun today. But this is, especially when you're reading this to different ages, we always try to think about ways that make it appeal. There is a page at the end that mentions all the plants and animals that are shown throughout the book. We realize that becomes kind of a fun thing. That way you can go back through the book and say, okay, well, where do you see that western toad? Let's go back and try to find the western toad, or where is the bobcat? So it reads on a lot of different levels. Then you could kind of find this a fun seek and find. But yeah, teaching about haiku, family fun day in nature. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a volcano. It could be anything. But last year was a strong year for haiku. There was another book that we looked at, but this is also one that held up. Came out early in the year, but at the end of the year, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I just think the simple illustration really helps or the people just helps to encapsulate that joy that kids feel in the family, but also just all the emotions. So climbing the volcano.
All right, The Mighty Pollinators. This is one of a series of books written by Helen Frost and Rick Leiter. Rick is he is a nature movie maker, and a documentary filmmaker, and his photographs are the most incredible photographs I think I've ever seen in children's literature. And one of the things that's so amazing about this book, and why this book is the one that you want to get, yes, the poetry is good, and yes, the oh, look at that, isn't that gorgeous? Never mind. Yes, the art, the photography is just stunning. But what is so special about this book is that Helen Frost makes sure that you understand that it is the pollen that makes the difference to making seeds for plants. So many people say, oh, bees are really good. They use the flowers and they make honey. But what they're not explaining is how critical pollination is and what it is to kids. And this puts it at a really easy level for children. And yet the art and the words are absolutely stunningly beautiful. I'll read you just this little section. It's pollen in the air, pollen in the flowers, pollen helping plants make seeds. Almost invisible pollen waits for the only thing it needs: a ride on the wind, or on a wing, fur, or feather. Here come the pollinators, small and mighty, holding the world together. This is so good. So I just want to, and she has a whole history. Helen has a whole history of absolutely gorgeous books that she's done together with Rick Leiter, and all of them are excellent. Not too long ago, we selected for the Blueberry a book about praying mantises and their lives. It was just stunning. And so now, I mean, it's almost like anything Helen and Rick want to do together, we're going to put on the Blueberry Award. Because they are so terrific. So make sure you look her up and take a look at some of her other books in addition to this absolutely brilliant The Mighty Pollinators book. All right, next slide.
So I should say that Helen is with us today. You know who
Yes.
else is with us today?
Yes.
Michelle Shaw.
Michelle.
Yeah, so we've got this little book here called A Place for Rain. It's about rain barrels. And rain barrels are fantastic. I take personal pride in this book because I discovered this one in a bookstore, which is not usually the case. Usually we find them through reviews, or we find them because they were sent to us. This one didn't get sent to us for whatever reason, but we found it. We will locate these books if we have to. This is just a really lovely look, not just at rain barrels, though rain barrels are certainly covered to a certain extent, but also for rain gardens. And what are the different things? So I'm showing this is not the front text of the book. Okay, this is the back matter of the book. And I have to specify that one rule we have for the blueberry is that the back matter cannot be better than the front matter. Okay, if you've read the back matter of the book and been like, this book's amazing, but the front part bored you to death, that is not a blueberry book. This book does not have to worry about that. First of all, it's got a nice, simple, straightforward, great text. It is so hard to write simple picture books and younger picture books. We cannot stress that enough, because when you make those older like picture books with the sophisticated text, grown-ups love them. Yeah, they do. Kids, So and trying to find something for the littles can be really difficult. Not a problem with this book. Look at this. It's got the great writing to a spongy pooling place, a saucer of land to hold the rain as it expands. Isn't that cool? It's got wonderful, very colorful, fun art to go along with it. And it's just a really straightforward sort of, not just rain barrels, but also like how you can use that rain barrel in different ways. I have yet to take out my rain barrels because we live in the Chicago area and I don't trust it's not going to freeze again. So still have to wait. But until I am able to, I can use this book and I can live vicariously through it. And I can then read it to kids and be like, and guess what? Soon we'll be putting out the rain barrels. But not yet. It's coming. It is coming. Oh, and that is not the right place for that slide. Moving on.
Ooh, okay. So one of the things we often look at every year when we look at all of our delightful blueberry nonfiction is we get a lot of great biographies. I'm thrilled 2024 was a strong year for biographies of amazing women. So speaking of amazing women, there's not a ton of women that are directly correlated or given credit for with the national parks. Minerva Hoyt is one of 4 women that you can directly tie to a national park. So Susan Threw for Sequoia National Park, Virginia Donahue McClurg for Mesa Verde in Colorado, and Marjorie Stoneman Douglas for Everglades National Park. If you remember those, maybe I'll send you a magnet. Not really. But that's my qualifications, my various magnets. So I think we think of the national parks. If you want to go to age range 7 to 10, a little bit older, but this one's super fun. So I will say I tried it out with my nephews. I try these ones out to see how they are, and then they were excited because they were going to Joshua Tree. I think we think of the national parks as just, well, they've always been there. They're there. So this one was really cool to read and find out how did it come to be. And so this is Minerva Hoyt. Also, the style of this, I feel like perfectly encapsulates that 1920s around when this is all happening. Sometimes we look at books and we go, ooh, the wording is amazing. The illustrations don't match, or vice versa. And this is one where the style of it perfectly encapsulates that time. It gives you that feel without doing the sepia tones that we sometimes see for books. But this page also perfectly highlights something. Betsy and I have a bugbear in particular about fake dialogue. I'm doing that because air quotes are important, because if you go next page, and one of the things I love in the back, so you see another quote, right? I stood and looked, everything was peaceful and it rested me. I love it. The author in the back matter, there is a bibliography, and it tells you that where all of the quotations in the book came from, because there's nothing that drives us more crazy than when there's just made up quotes, especially if it's like a refrain in a book. We're like, but where did that come from? So this is great. All right, so you look at it, it's 1918. That's 100 years ago, but it's when we think about this, you see what we think of as this beautiful desert, right? Gorgeous. Look at that. You've got wolves, you've got cacti. Next slide, please. But not everyone felt that way. And Minerva Hoyt was getting worried. So we're going to go next slide. Okay, this is great. So this is a great story. This lady was not going to be deterred. So she had somebody come out and he was like, oh, you know what? Actually not. This doesn't qualify. It's not really pretty. she lobbies the president, she writes, gets somebody else to come out and look at this place. But I love the look that they give the man who initially rejected Joshua Tree as a park. It made me think of the grumpy park ranger in the old Disney cartoons. But this is great. So I think it's a way to show kids persistence and also kind of talking about that anti-anxiety of, here we can do things. Um, and so people wrote letters, and it was amazing. And they got somebody else out who appreciated what a desert was. And so this is something else that we think about with the blueberry is highlighting different parts of nature. Even though we don't necessarily have deserts here in the Midwest, obviously there are people who have deserts as their nature. And so we want to highlight that. We had a fabulous book last year about tumbleweeds. So think oh no, this is the last one. But anyway, it was amazing. The story that starts in 1920 as a national monument. It's not until 1994 that it's recognized as a national park. So it's just an amazing story. I think it's a great way to relate, especially for you could do it for a Women's History Month as a book. So Minerva Hoyt, Cactus Queen, highly recommend, and can even have it as little cacti.
Cool. All right, folks, we're at 11:38. We're going to have to speed this thing up. All right. Crows. I love them, but they've never really had like a really, really good Corvid related picture book, right? We've got it now, and this is cool. Crows are cool. They are very cool. They're around, so we see them a fair amount. We may not recognize just how neat they are, but they are very neat. The great thing about this book isn't just the writing, which is wonderful. It's also just a pure crow appreciation from a visual standpoint and cool art, right? Look at how Olivia Gill here has sort of put the crow against, notebook paper, right? Is using this kind of mixed media to bring all these things out, but then hitting all the crow highlights. This is sort of something that I've been seeing recently that I've really liked because if you take a single animal like an octopus or a crow, and then you just show the really cool things, page after page after page of them, that's just neat. And I really like that. So it's sort of just a litany of all the neat things that go with crows. And since crows are, in fact, as common as they are, a kid might actually see a crow. I mean, books about octopuses are fantastic, but how often do they go outside their house and run over a octopus? I hope they don't. I don't want anyone to run over an octopus. I love octopuses. But anyway, it's a really cool book, and I really enjoy it. And I believe I am not doing this next one. This is Bridget.
Yes, this is me. I'm back again. Okay, so this is The Noisy Puddle, a vernal pool through the seasons, written by Linda Buswini, illustrated by Mickey Sato. I personally love books where I learn something. I was like, a vernal pool, what is that? I don't know. That's just like a fancy name for a puddle? No, it's a small ecosystem. It's a community of plants and animals. So I love when I learn things. I was like, ooh, next slide, please. This one is great. It's just if you see the different style, it's like in these paper cuts and the illustrations. If you go to the next page, so what I love with this book is we go through the different seasons. It's going to go spring, summer, fall, winter. So that's a great one. You can kind of teach kids, take them through the different things, through the different seasons. Oh, well, what does it look like in this season? What does it look like in summer, fall? Just a great way. Next slide, please. It's also a fun one to read. We think about this one. Is it fun? Also, another beautiful big double slut page. Then, as always, this is what we talk about, back matter, but then different things to look for in the vernal pool. But I think, again, where there might not be a vernal pool next right there, but it will start to get kids to look at puddles and looking down at the ground and things like that. So it's in a way of what are you seeing? So simple, amazing, really just kind of a fantastic way with the seasons, with looking at, puddles of water, and that there's more, that it's not just dirt in there. So, all right.
Whales, when they die, it's a whole thing. There's an entire ecosystem based entirely on their carcasses. And we've had whale fall picture books before, and nothing against them. They were very nice. However, I learned so much from this book that I did not already know. Did you know you can see how old a whale is by counting the rings of earwax? I didn't know that until I read this book. They're like trees, but on the inside. I know what you're asking. You're saying, Betsy, this won the Cybert Award, and yes, it did. So we've probably heard of it before. But are there zombie worms? My friends, I am happy to report all the zombie worms you could possibly want eating these whale bones are in here. So if you're unfamiliar with a whale fall is very simple. Whales die like so. And when they do, their carcass falls to the bottom of the ocean after a while. But they've been feeding, animals when they were dead at the top. Then they feed an entire system, an ecosystem that could not exist without dead whales, basically. And it's very cool and it's very neat. Jason Chin's art is extraordinary. It is beautiful. You never saw a prettier dead whale a day of your life, but it's also kind of gross. And who doesn't also like things that are just a little bit gross at the same time? Definitely on the older end, you can see that text is a little longer than we're going to see. So you're not going to be reading this to your 3-year-olds, right? You're going to be reading this with your older kids, the ones who might think it's cool that there's a shark and a bunch of zombie worms all in the same image together. I mean, who wouldn't want to read that? So if you want to go through, yes, the entire ecosystem. And what's so cool about this is it's life after whale, but then it continues with it shows the next living whale. So it is a cycle and it is a circle and it does all continue together. So that's what makes this book particularly extraordinary.
Ooh, it's me again. I told you that 2024 was a strong year for picture book bios of women, and indeed it was. So this is, and I realize books I picked have a question mark or have exclamation points, punctuation. It really matches my wanting to do spirit fingers and jazz hands. So up, ever up, the story of Junko Tabe, A Life in the Mountains. So hello, welcome. This is the first woman who climbed Mount Everest. Gorgeous pictures. I mean, they just feel very lyrical. I love how in the hair there you see the mountain, how it's always present. Just gorgeous. Next slide. But also, as Betsy was saying about her previous book, this one's heavier in the text. So this is more going to be on your older end. Again, I love how the mountain is always there and how this is talking about her having her family, but there's always the mountain there and always this desire to climb. So I do love that we've, by the way, gone from the desert to the mountains. It's a nice bookends here. But if I could have the next slide, please. Look at that. All right. I love it. Amazing. Just absolutely gorgeous. I think this is oftentimes we don't see or hear about the parts of, we just hear this person was like, oh, well, they were a child and then they did this amazing thing. And this is where we get to see, you're like, well, how did she do this? And so that we get to hear about it. And I love that we see the husband and her daughter there as well. So this is one where I kind of was like, well, how did I not know about her? Last year was the year of me find women where I was like, wait, how did I not know? Wait, what? So again, where we're trying to highlight, we're kind of like, wait, but we have two picture book bios. Women were like, but that's a really good thing. So highly recommend another one. We're just planning out your March for you. You're welcome. So, and I believe Betsy, you're up next.
Yes, so Bee Mother, I love bees. And a lot of books do stuff with bees, but they'll just talk about one kind of bee, the honeybee. The honeybee gets all the attention, and who can blame them? The honeybee is cool. But the bumblebee is freaking weird, man, and I think we need to talk about that more. Did you know that all of them die? They all die, and then she's the only one alive, the queen, and then she goes to sleep, and then she has to restart the entire colony on her own every spring. What? That's terrible ecological biology planning. I don't even know why they did that. But this is a lovely series. It's part of a larger Mothers of Exan series. The creator of this particular book is Gixon Nation. The illustrator is Matisse. And these are beautiful illustrations that go through a bunch of different kinds of bees and talk about what they do. Again, we've got the slightly older text here, but we've also got these are so well done. They look so fuzzy. You just want to pet them. And then it goes through all the different kinds of bees, really drilling home to kids that it's not just all honeybees, because if you read children's books, you'd be pretty convinced that it's like honeybees and nothing else to a certain extent. This book sort of makes you aware of, yes, the pollination aspects of them, but just their lives and how their lives differ between bees. As I say, beautiful to look at, but just very cool additional information of stuff that you might not necessarily know about the bees. And, I just like anything that covers a range of insects, which includes leafcutter ants. You're muted, Martha.
Sorry about that. This is Martha, and I'm going to be presenting two books by Amy Hevron, and I really want you to know who Amy Hevron is. She writes the best books about nature for kids that she sort of exemplifies the blueberry for me. This is a story about leafcutter ant society, what she calls a sustainable society of millions. And it's how everyone works together, doing different unique jobs that end with a sustainable whole. So this is, in addition to a deep exploration of the science of leafcutter ants for kids, it is also an explanation of how we can work together to make a sustainable society. And so it functions on several levels, which I think is really brilliant. The art is just so spectacular. And then let's go on to the next one. The next book that she's got this wonderful series of books called A Tiny Habitats book. There's another one that's just come out in 2025 that's about poo on the prairie that is so incredible. I can't wait to share that one with you next year. But this one is called Log Life, and this one is about again, this is both 2024 books, both by Amy Hevron, both blueberries, and it shares exactly what happens to a nurse log as it moves from just fallen in the forest to supporting life on so many different levels. And it makes it cute, yes, but it also explains deeply what is actually happening in the decaying wood and who is doing that, who are the detritivores that are devouring the wood, and how does it lead to greater creatures? She has a beautiful statement to us. With both of these books, I showcase fascinating yet overlooked species, go backwards, and habitats that play important roles in the biodiversity of their larger ecosystems. And in these times where biodiversity is in decline, I love the Blueberry Award with its focus on hopeful nature and climate-oriented stories. So keep watching Amy Hevron. She's fantastic. And we should get to the younger books quickly here. So I will stop talking about Amy, though I could talk about Amy for hours.
Board books.
Yes.
We love board books. They're so cool. We do include them on the list to a certain extent. But I do a roundup of board books, not just nature board books, on my site of Fuse Number 8 Production, hosted by School Library Journal. So that is certainly true. But if you need books for the youngest of readers, these board books are where it is at. They are fantastic and they are lovely. One that we did put on our list this year is Songs of the Birds, which is a guide to North American bird calls and obviously songs. And this is one of those books that if you're a librarian, you may find it singing aloud in your children's room, but you won't mind. This isn't the very noisy cricket situation where you can't figure out where the sound is coming from. You're going to know where it's coming from because these sounds are so cool. So it's got these little circles, and when you press the little circles, let's see if it actually works, does the actual bird call of the actual birds. So now when you look and you're like, oh, what bird is doing that? Well, maybe it's a blue jay. Well, let's check that and see if it is. Actually is. Oh, yeah, that is a blue jay that we heard outside. How cool is this? Yes, you can go through the whole book and it's just full of neat birds. I just keep wanting to do this. Yeah. Kids are going to be absolutely obsessed with like associating, and then they're going to learn which calls go with which bird, and then they're going to hear the birds in real life, and they're going to be like, oh, I am completely aware that that is a cardinal, or that is a goldfinch, or that is a junco. Who knows? I get very excited about this because this is such a cool idea. And then it actually is just a very pretty book as well on top of that, with a lot of facts and information, because then you can say, oh yeah, it's a goldfish. Did you know they only eat plants? You know, that sort of thing. So you can kind of work it in there. Yeah, this is one of our favorites. This is why we love board books. And then of course we had some honor board books as well. I think Bridget, you're talking about that.
Oh yeah. So, who laid these eggs? Like I said, I this year was really in favor of books with punctuation, exclamation points, question marks. This would be a great one to pair with A Terrible Place for a Nest, because it starts off, because I think it makes kids aware of eggs. If they're asking like, oh, what's in the nest? Just as books that make sounds are sometimes a consternation to parents and librarians around, but books with flaps, we love them. But sometimes the flaps don't stay on, but we do love them, and they're certainly fun to show. So these are what the eggs look like. And then, you can have some lucky child or the one sitting on your lap pull open the flap to reveal it's a robin. And I love this book because it not only does just birds, but there are frogs, there are snakes, there are, what's that in the dirt? It's an ostrich. Super fun one. I think there's one more, so you can see these beautiful, oh, nope, that's it. Highly recommend. It's just a great one. Flaps, and the flaps have the further information. So just a great one, a flat book. They're worth the trouble, we promise. You can just use some book tape to stack them down. And that's it.
This is another great one, but we're going to skip over. This was a great year for cactus and desert climates. So there's wonderful desert books on our list. But I did want to give you a little taste of what's coming up in 2025. I talked to you a little bit about Amy Hevron's next book in the Tiny Habitats series, Pooh Pile on the Prairie. Anyone who works with kids to help them explain prairie, I think you're going to love this one. There's also Safe Crossing by Kari Percival, this is also about vernal pools, but this is about kids doing work to make sure that salamanders can make it across the road, and finding smart ways to do it. Can't wait to share that with you next year, probably, if it makes it all the way through the year. We've got a few more blueberry contenders here. One is about biodiversity of potatoes. And it is so cool. And who knew that you could explain to 4-year-olds about the importance of the biodiversity of potatoes? And then there's this beautiful book about butterflies. And it's hard to do a new butterfly book, but this one is just amazing. So wanted to share a little bit with you about the blueberry contenders. Next slide. There we go. Yes. Okay. So we have educators list. We have an adult recommendations list. We have them all on the website. And let's turn the final slide over back to, yes. What can I use these lists for? We hope you'll use them to inspire your nature story times. We hope you'll start STEM activities with all these wonderful books, like sorting seeds, taking a nature walk, planting a seed, looking for bugs or birds, visiting a wetland. There's all kinds of opportunities. I'm sure you know better than us. Of course, selecting a weekly theme. These books are ideal for that. And of course, this flyer that has all of our books on it is available to you. You can download it. You have to print it, but you can download it easily from our website, and you can use them as handouts for your parents for either Earth Day or just to prepare your students' parents for continuing the learning at home. Any kind of collaboration you do on Earth Day, either sharing a handout or working with partners, creating a story time, these books all will work for that. Come and collaborate with your local library We'd love to do a book walk with you. Many of these books, especially the picture books, are great for doing a book walk. Easy to do. You get garage sale signs and laminate the book twice. Get 2 copies of the book, laminate both sides, and then you are all set to do a book walk. You can arrange author visits with some of these authors. You can collaborate with your local Indigenous leaders. And of course, you can always, for much older kids, a graphic novel book club. These 2 books are the ones on the side here that are wonderful graphic novels. Okay, next slide. And this is the all-important email list. I mean, the way in which you can get the Blueberry information, the flyers, the lists, the Best Nature board book list, the educator list, the adult list, Blueberry spine labels if you want to stick them on your books. So now we'll turn this back over to Sydney.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you, Betsy. Thank you, Bridget. I just love my job getting to sit and listen for an hour about all these wonderful, cute, and creative little stories. My God. So excited to dig in more and probably order some more for myself and my little baby. For those who are still here, as I said in the beginning, both this webinar recording and these relevant resources, including some of those links that are shared in the chat, will be made available over the next week on our website. We'll be sure to email you all as registrants to notify you when these materials are all posted. I just have one quick announcement for you all. Many of you are aware, but our annual Nature-Based Early Learning Conference is coming up this summer, and registration is opening next week. Woo! So stay tuned for the big announcement so you can visit our conference website to learn more about this year's program and register to attend. It's going to be a great event consisting of a fabulous lineup of featured speakers and concurrent and live sessions, workshops, site tours, and over 100 on-demand sessions. All of this content will be available on demand for the next year until July 2026. That is all I have. Thank you again so much for being here today. Thank you to our speakers, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day and week.